All right. Good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. So, before we start the lesson, are we good? All right. So, before we start the lesson, I just want to cover 3 quick points really quickly, and then we'll begin and I'll talk about what we're going to do this week. The first one, thank you for all the feedback, everything, whatever nice you said. Thank you very much. Um, I thought I'd talk about this on the first day. Maybe I did not. I don't know. But I'll just repeat it. Many people are getting upset at me for sending the service. Please know I do not send the service. I have absolutely no control over the service. I didn't even know service existed. It is from Bootcamp, Spot. That's how the system is. So, again, you can keep complaining about it. That's okay. But I just wanted to clarify. I don't have any control over it. I'm not sending it. The TAs have no control over it. Even Brent has no control over it. You can keep going higher. That's how the system is, and it will. Unfortunately, you will have to do surveys like the remaining 22 weeks. So I'm sorry. This is almost I've been doing this for like 2 years, and every cohort complains this a lot that there are too many surveys. But unfortunately, I can't do anything about that. Okay, so I know they have built a system like that you can't even mark your attendance until you take the survey. I don't know what they were thinking. Again, you can if you feel better, you can talk to Brent about it also, but he won't be able to do anything as well. Okay, just wanted to clarify. Please don't hate me because of the surveys. All right. The second thing from the surveys, the pace is fast, right? Again, unfortunately, that's even going to speed up. This week, I'm going to teach you JavaScript in like 4 weeks. Usually, it takes like 6 months. So yeah, uh, but I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to give you some advice. Hopefully, you guys listen as well. If you do, it will make it a little bit easier. But yes, JavaScript is still going to be a little bit difficult, and we'll talk about more in the upcoming slides. Okay. The third thing in the spirit of transparency, you should know that there are almost like 15 or 16 universities that have shut down their campuses. So we are not on that list right now, but if it happens, the classes will be virtual classes. So we'll be doing it on Zoom. Again, when it happens, there'll be more instructions, and I will get some more instructions, and I will tell you how it's going to happen. The timing and everything will still be the same: 6:30 to 9:30. Class hours, office hours, everything will remain the same. The only difference would be that these would be virtual. Again, haven't gotten initial any confirmation, but I know there are like 15 or 16 universities running the exact same bootcamp that have gone virtual because their campuses have shut down. Okay, not yet, but we'll see. It might be upcoming week. I don't know what you offer decides. As they decide, I will let you know, and we'll go through it, and I will give you more information. But that's all I have right now. Okay, classes will happen, but just virtual on Zoom. That's all I know. All right. Okay. So after that, let's go ahead and begin. I hope you guys saw my message on Slack and nobody is surprised that we're going to start JavaScript. What are we going to be doing today? And I'm going to tell you that these are the things that we'll cover today, and I'll go in detail. We'll do each one of them. There'll be a lot of coding. If you guys saw the activities, there are almost like 30 activities or something. So we are going to cover almost like 14 today. Okay, so there's a lot of, actually 13. So a lot of activities, a lot of stuff um, about JavaScript. Okay, but before that, let me tell you, the first anytime the first programming language that you learn is always very tough. There's like no doubt about it, right? Anytime you learn your first programming language, that's always going to be tough. It doesn't matter if it's JavaScript or Java or C Sharp or C++. The first one is always difficult, right? On top of that, JavaScript is already kind of weird, so it's double difficult. But that's the situation that is. Okay. I'll talk about why do we need to learn JavaScript again. For a web development perspective, you need to know JavaScript. When you go into an interview, I can guarantee nobody is going to ask you about HTML. Nobody is going to ask you about CSS. Everybody is going to ask about JavaScript. Okay. They're going to ask you to code in JavaScript. The questions they're going to ask are going to be on JavaScript. Okay. The reason is if you're able to answer, if you know JavaScript, the assumption is you pretty much know HTML, CSS. Okay. As a web developer, as a full stack developer, the most important technology is JavaScript. Okay. It's even more important than libraries and frameworks that are built on JavaScript. Again, and the main reason is the libraries are going to come and go. The frameworks are going to come and go. The only thing that is constant till now is JavaScript. Okay. Yesterday jQuery was popular. Today it's React. Tomorrow it's going to be something else. Okay. But beneath everything, it's still JavaScript, right? Since 1995, JavaScript has been going, and I don't see any changes that the browser are going to do to remove JavaScript. So JavaScript is pretty much here to stay. Okay. But we will whine about it, we'll complain about it, but eventually we do have to learn it. Okay? Trust me, JavaScript is my favorite language to whine about. I whine about JavaScript a lot, right? But if I want to write some code, if I want to do Node.js, I just have to come back to JavaScript. That's the only way to do it. Okay? Um, Now, a couple of things that I'm going to tell you for learning JavaScript. It's going to be extremely confusing. I understand. Again, as I said, it's just not JavaScript. It's the first programming language and then JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript is a little bit different than other programming languages such as Java, C Sharp, and C++. It's a little bit like a wild west of languages. But the thing is, this is the only language that your browser recognizes other than HTML and CSS. So that's why it is important that we learn it. Okay. Um, One thing I would suggest is I did it on the first day as well. It is more important right now. Please don't try to follow along. That's my advice. But if you think you can follow along my coding, you can see and you can try to solve those problems as I'm solving. It's up to you, but I would recommend don't do it. Okay. Please take notes. All the videos are there. You can go back and watch the videos, look at the coding and everything. But the best what I've seen is take notes, understand the concepts, and then learn the coding part. Okay, recommended. Don't follow along, but if you do want to, you think you can keep up, then it's up to you. Okay, what I've seen in my experience, most of the people they look down, they're trying to solve, they look up. I have already written like 5 lines, and they're like already confused. Then they're asking for help, and it takes a lot of time away. Okay, just watch what I'm doing, try to understand the concept, take notes, and then you can go back and redo those activities again. Okay, please understand that the class activities by the name are meant to be done in class, but it's almost impossible to complete that. I told you the first day, that's how the course is. The time that they give you, like 15 minutes, it's almost impossible for somebody who's learning the language the first time to complete that activity, right? But I'm going to try to solve those activities as much as possible in class so that at least you guys have in your video, okay? And you guys can go back and see how I'm solving those, okay? Organize, I've been saying this from the first day. If you haven't, this is the time to get organized. It's just not, organization means time management, extremely important, okay? Remember, I told you that you should be spending 55% of your time on the current subject, right? And then remaining 45 on your homework. Okay. Now, this week is even more important than your homework. I'll be honest with you. So my suggestion would be, if possible, you need to increase the 55 to either 60 or even 65% of your time. Okay, that's how important the JavaScript week is. Okay, please understand the next 4 weeks before your project one are related to JavaScript. Okay, if you don't understand the first week, you're not going to understand the second week. Forget about the other 2 weeks; they are even more tough. But if you don't understand the basics of JavaScript, the week that we are going to cover, everything else is not going to make sense. Okay, your homework, I understand it is important. It's a bootstrap. I feel like most of you guys have a handle of it. I'm not sure. I that's the feeling I get. I think the homework is still manageable with just bootstrap. You don't have to worry about too much CSS. You can complete your portfolio and get a good grade as long as you complete the requirements. Okay, you don't have to write any extra CSS as well. Okay, for that reason, I'm going to stress try to spend more time on this week. Okay. The other reason is after this week you can go back to this 55%. Why? Because everything after this is just JavaScript. You have to do the homework. Everything is JavaScript, so you're learning a lot more. Okay. The only reason I'm saying this week is I don't want you guys to spend like so much time on your bootstrap homework that you kind of get left behind. Okay. Honestly, this is even more important than bootstrap or HTML or CSS. Okay, because remaining time it's all JavaScript. And as I said, interviews, everything, they're going to ask you about JavaScript. I can guarantee nobody's going to ask you about HTML tags or CSS and how do you write the CSS. Okay? Again, why? If you know JavaScript, they are 100% sure you can write HTML and CSS. Okay? So please, time management, stay organized, go back and review the class. When you come back Thursday, some of these concepts, please make sure you have done your homework. Not the homework, the class activities. You have any questions around the concept, please make sure you slack them out after today's class. Please ask during the class, I don't mind at all. But redo those class activities. Okay? Especially, this is your first programming language, you need to know all these concepts. All right? Um, if I can guarantee if you follow this, you are going to get JavaScript. It is weird, it is wonky, it's crazy. Okay, I get it, and I'll talk about what are the concepts, why JavaScript does it that way. We'll cover all of that. Okay, it's a little bit different because of the nature of JavaScript. The reason is it runs on your browser. It has to take care of a few things. So those are the reasons that it's a little bit different than other programming languages. Okay, but we'll talk about that more. But please remember, these are the things, and we are going to, it's all coding from here on. Okay? 4 weeks JavaScript before you get to your project. So we are going to cover JavaScript this week. Then we are going to cover some other little bit more advanced JavaScript next week. The third week would be jQuery, and then the fourth week would be third-party APIs. We'll talk about more, but that's what the schedule is. Okay, but all of 4 weeks JavaScript. Okay, now again, please understand the concepts, everything that I'm going to talk about in this course. The expectation is as a junior developer, you should know them. Okay, there is nothing crazy or advanced in this course when it comes to at a hiring position. Okay, whatever I'm going to cover, the expectation is as a junior developer, you should know all of them. Okay, when you go and interview, they are going to ask the same concepts. Again, the expectation is you should be able to know them. Now, here's what I do. Some of the concepts, maybe you haven't coded them, right? You don't know how to write the code, but the important thing is you know the concept, right? What I do is when somebody asks me a question that I have not actually written a code for, so what do? I say, well, professionally in my projects, I haven't used it, but I know the concept and I explain them, this is what it means, right? That gets me points and that's okay, right? So anything that you hear over here in your project, you might not use it, maybe the homework doesn't cover, but everything that you hear over here, at least know the concept so that you can talk in an interview, right? Versus saying, oh, I've never heard this before. That's not the case. The thing is that as junior developers, the expectation is at least you will know the concepts, even if you don't know the code. Okay? All right. Any questions before we start? No? Yes, Alex.
Does it ask you to do the survey every week?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's every week. Yeah. Again, I haven't done it, but I hate service as well. If I had the power, I would make it optional or like take it out, but unfortunately, I don't. Okay. Any other questions? No questions? You have a question? Yes. So it's more like a backend. Yeah. So when it comes to web development, when it comes to browser, remember there are only three things: HTML, CSS, JavaScript. There's nothing else. React, jQuery, Angular, everything is based off on JavaScript. Your browser eventually only understands JavaScript and nothing else. Python and all those stuff, yes, they are important, but they are more like a data related and also backend related. Yeah, so Python would be more like Java. We'll talk about. I have a slide. We'll talk about a little more. But Python would be like a backend language. Okay. When it comes to a browser, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's all. No other thing your browser cannot understand. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So before we begin, we'll talk about JavaScript and what everything is. Just take a look at activity number 1. Um, just take a look at it for 5 minutes, and I trust me. By the end of the class, we would have covered every single concept that you see in that file. I just want you guys to look at activity number 1. You can talk with members on the same table. Just take a look at it, and we'll start JavaScript, and then we'll come back to it later on. Okay, just like 5 minutes, and then we'll continue. So I hope everybody did a git pull. You should have all the activities, all the PowerPoint presentations, everything. So this is 01 called code dissection. You should be able to run this file as well. Just take a look at it, and then um, by the end of the class, you should be able to understand each one of them. All right. Let's get back to it. I hope everybody at least downloaded and opened the file. Right. We'll start with JavaScript, what it is, and we'll come back to it. And by the end of the class, I promise all of those things that you saw, you should be able to read it. Okay. Now, the first question is what is JavaScript, right? Before I answer that, what I usually try to answer is what is not JavaScript. Okay. Now I understand this is your first time learning JavaScript, so there are some confusions. The biggest confusion is JavaScript is not Java. Okay, please remember that. Today you are forgiven. After that, this will not be forgiven. Okay, please never ever confuse Java with JavaScript. There is absolutely no relationship between Java and JavaScript. Okay, now how are they not related? It is saying that these two are same. Okay, that is a relationship between Java and JavaScript. Okay, or you can say, well, Gandalf and Dumbledore are the same characters, totally different universe. That's what Java and JavaScript are. Okay. Again, maybe these are like two nerdy examples for you. Like I'm not sure what he's talking about. Saying Mark Wahlberg or Matt Damon are saying. Okay. This is the relationship between Java and JavaScript. Okay. Please remember, JavaScript is a front end which runs on your browser. Java is a backend language that does not run on your browser. It has no relationship. Okay. I hope after that nobody is going to confuse, at least in this class. What is going to happen, you're going to be reached by recruiters who are going to look at your profile and ask you, hey, I have a Java opening, and you are like a perfect candidate for that. And then you can come to me, tell me, and we can joke, and then we can joke about the recruiter, how he doesn't know or she doesn't know the difference between Java and JavaScript. That's okay. Okay. But you guys should not confuse this anymore. All right. Now, why is it called JavaScript? Back in 1995, there was a race going on. Everybody was trying to come up with a scripting language. JavaScript was created by Netscape Navigator. They are the ones who did it, and then Microsoft was trying to implement their own scripting language. So it was a rush, right? Whoever gets to it first would set the standard, and that would be the language of the web, right? They were trying to come up with a name. As I said, engineers are really bad at coming up with names. Java was already popular, so as a marketing gimmick, they came up with the name JavaScript. Just because Java was already popular, they said let's call it JavaScript, and the name has stuck forever. Okay, that is the only relationship between Java and JavaScript, that they kind of stole the name. That's all. Okay, absolutely no relationship. Java again is a backend language. JavaScript is front end, and this is the third language that your browser understands. Okay. I hope nobody else is going to confuse after this. All right. So we learned about HTML. We have learned about CSS. These two are good if you're making a static website. What is a static website? It just means that you have a nice, pretty page that doesn't do anything. Okay. Even if you want to click a button on your website, you need JavaScript. You cannot do anything, any action, unless you have JavaScript in your website. Okay. With HTML and CSS, you only get static websites that have nice images and pictures and links, and that's all, right? JavaScript, if you want to take any action, you want the website to do something, you need JavaScript. Okay, so that's why it is extremely important. When you look at those, when you go to some site which you have some interaction, for example, you are submitting something, you're completing a form and clicking the button, or you're obtaining some data that comes back, it shows you on the screen and everything, for example, scores from different teams or sports, everything is being controlled by JavaScript. Anything your website needs an interaction, you need JavaScript for it. Okay, that's how important JavaScript is, right? Let's see. Before we get to, now this week we are going to cover concepts in like smaller pieces, like in chunks, all right? Sometimes people get frustrated. They're like, well, what is the use of it? The use is coming. Just be calm. And, when we get to the uses part, that's when people get even more confused. So I would say these are individual concepts. Make sure you understand them. Towards the end of the week, next week, these all concepts will come together and they will be frequently used, extremely frequently used. Okay? Right now, they might not make sense and you'll be like, well, individually, No, but they're going to be used collectively. Okay, so I'm going to cover these in chunks, and towards the end of the week, the next week, then upcoming weeks, all of these would be used a lot. Okay, now the first concept in any language that you're learning is variables. Okay, before I get to variables, what variables are, how do you use variables, the first thing I would do is, remember when we were doing CSS, we looked at three types of ways to include CSS, right? Internal, external, inline. Okay, before we go any forward, I'll show you the couple of ways that you can include JavaScript in your HTML, and then we'll come back and look at the variables, what they are. Okay, so let me quickly show you first how do you include a JavaScript file or JavaScript code. Okay, so here I have my index HTML. That's all simple skeleton. All right, so the first place you can include JavaScript is in your head, or you can also include it in your body tag. Okay, JavaScript is a little bit different. It can either go over here or it could go in your body tag. Okay, for example, we have a tag called script, and this is what is used for JavaScript. So anytime you want to write your JavaScript, it has to be inside these script tags. Okay, and then these script tags are going to be either present in the head tag, between the head, or body. Okay, those are the two options. Now, each one of them is telling you two different ways. There's a reason it has to be in head, and there's a reason it has to be in body tag. Okay, now there's a reason it is allowed in two places. All right, I'm not going to go into the reason right now, but please understand these are the two options, and when we get to next week, I will show you what is the reason you need to put your script tag over here, or you need to put it over here. Okay, usually it's one place or the other. All right, but there's a reason reason you're going to put it in your head tag, and there's a reason you're going to put it in your body tag. Okay, but remember there are two places you can put. Now this week, it doesn't matter where you put the script tag, so I'm going to put it in the head tag, and everything is still going to work. All right, because we're not going to cover the concepts that enforce me to put my script tag in the body tag. Okay, so for now I'm going to put all the code in the head tag instead of the body tag. Okay, again, if you want to try it, you can put it in your body tag. It won't make a difference this week. All right, so but the more important part is, if anytime you want to write a JavaScript, it goes in your script tags. Okay, Scott, did you have a question?
No, that pretty much answers it.
Okay.
What's the difference between the
Yeah, we'll cover the difference, but understand that these are the two ways. Okay, now the next point, just like inline CSS, you can write your complete JavaScript code between these tags and it's going to work. Okay, you are allowed to write your JavaScript code and it will still work. Okay, between these script tags. Same thing for the body tag, you can write your JavaScript code and it is going to work. Okay, but of course, you know my procedure. I don't like writing script tags or JavaScript code or CSS code in the same file. So I'm going to externalize it. These files are going to be external, just like your CSS. Okay, so if I want to make them external, I am going to create a similar JavaScript file. Let's call it demo. The extension is JS. Okay, instead of CSS was .css. For JavaScript, the extension is .js. As soon as you put in .js, you will see Visual Studio recognizes it, and it's going to let you type in code and help you write the JavaScript code. Okay. Now, since this is an external file, we need to include this. And the way to include this, I'm going to remove it for body tag. Don't need it. Over here, script, we have source, and the source you're going to mention the JavaScript file. Okay, that's how you link your JavaScript files, and that's the format that I'm going to be following. Now, in your class solutions, you will see that the JavaScript is written in body tag. Okay, Again, eventually in the upcoming weeks, you will see the solutions will change. Even in your homework, they're going to enforce you that you do it this way. I want to instill this from the beginning so that there's less confusion. Okay, so it's better get into the habit of writing an external JavaScript. That's how production level code is. That's how your homeworks are going to be. That's how your projects are going to be. Okay. The only thing I'm going to not cover today or this week is why do we put script tag in the head versus why do we put it in the body tag. This week, it won't make a difference. The code will still run. Okay. For now, for this week's activities, even if the activity is over here, I would highly recommend go ahead, change it, create your own code, put it in an external JavaScript file, and then link them in your HTML. Okay. And right now it's empty, and I'll come back and cover the next topic. All right, before we move on, any questions? Everybody understand the external linking of JavaScript file? External, the extension is .js. Okay. All right. So what are variables? Now, variable, the concept is not unique to JavaScript. Any programming language you're going to learn, all of them has variables, all of them. Okay. Now, what is a variable? Now, imagine a real life scenario. Let's suppose you are moving to a different house or moving somewhere else. You are packing your stuff, right? What do you do when you're packing? You get a box, right? You get a box, okay? And then the next thing, most probably, you would do is you will label it. Okay, let's suppose I'm going to label this and say lamb. Okay. Now, in our scenario, let's suppose the box is unique that you can only put one thing in that box. Okay. Now, this box can only contain one item, and I'm putting a lamp over here. So I will put a lamp over here. Okay. I'm going to put the lamp inside the box. Okay. So the box is used to store something. That is exactly what a variable is. A variable is used to store something, and that something is data. Okay, that is the purpose of it. If you want to save something, if you want to put something, for example, over here in a box, you use a variable. If you want to put some data inside it, you use a variable. Okay, now remember the steps. The first thing was you got a box, you obtained a box, then you labeled it, and then you put something inside it. Okay, these are the exact same steps that we do when we are creating or obtaining variables. Okay, now what are those steps? So let's go back to our code so that you guys can see what variables are. The first step was to obtain a box, right? And how do we tell JavaScript that we are trying to obtain a variable? The keyword is called var. Okay, the keyword var is going to tell JavaScript that you are trying to get a box. Basically, you're trying to obtain something. That something is like memory. You're trying to find something that you want to store your data in. So the keyword is var. Okay. The next thing is we are going to label our box. Okay. So we are going to label it. I'm going to call it name. Variable names can be anything. Okay. No spaces in between. Okay, I'll show you the coding standard. If you have a bigger variable name, what is the standard that you use? But this thing can be anything you want. This is your label. Okay, the last part is you're going to put something in that box. So basically, you're going to store some data inside that box, and you do it by saying equal to double quotes, and let's say I'm going to store a name. Okay, the last part you will see I put a semicolon. Semicolon indicates that my line is completed and this is done. Okay, anytime I see a semicolon, this tells your IDE, the place you're writing your code, that your code is done, your line is complete. Okay, recommendation. JavaScript is, as I said, wild west. Usually any programming language, they enforce that you need to have a semicolon or some kind of a character that tells you that the line has ended. JavaScript is unique. Even if you skip semicolon, it will still work. Okay, it does not look for it. But we have standardized codings. A lot of companies have enforced coding standards, and they, if you don't put a semicolon, you will get an error. You'll get a warning, and whoever is reviewing your code will not merge that code. Okay, we do it at our place. We do it a lot of places do the follow the same thing. Okay, they want your code to be structured, look nicely, perform nicely. So please get into the habit of putting a semicolon. Okay, again, if you don't, JavaScript is not going to complain. It will still work. But other languages, if you learn a language outside JavaScript later on, you will see that they enforce semicolon. They will not even let you compile or run your code. Okay, coming back to it. So this is how we create a variable. Var, keyword, name, basically the label, and then you're going to put some data. In this case, I am putting the name inside this variable. Okay, this box or this variable is going to contain this data. Okay, going into technical terms, this is called declaring a variable. You can say declaring a variable. Okay, now next time when I say, oh, go ahead and declare a variable, this is what you're going to do. You're going to say var, a name of the variable, equal to something. Okay, now equal to something is declaring a variable and assigning data. All right, same concept, nothing has changed. This is the more technical wording, technical jargon that is used. Okay, so you would say I am creating or declaring a variable and assigning some data to it. This operator over here, the equal to, means assign. You're assigning some data to this variable over here. Okay. Now, when we declare or create a variable, these variables can hold different types of data. Okay. So there are a few different types of data that these variables can hold. Types of data. The first type of data you see on your screen is called string. Okay, the word is called string. This type of variable can hold basically text, anything, numbers, letters, sentences. The only condition is it has to be between these two quotes over here, these two double quotes that you see. If you see double quotes, this means the type of data that this variable can hold is called string. Okay. There are two more types of data. The second one is number. If you want to store a number in your variable, so let's go ahead and declare a variable. That's the type of data would be a number. So I can say var age, let's say 35. Okay. So you will notice no double quotes. Okay. If you know that your variable is going to hold the data type of a number, you don't need double quotes, but you can put any number. Okay. So this data type is called number. What is a data type? Data type basically means what type of data can this variable hold, or the term is data type. So when we are talking, if I ask what is the data type for the variable name, you would say it's a string. Why is it a string? Because it can hold text in it, and it is starting with a double quote and ending with a double quote. Similarly, when I say what is the data type for your second variable age, you're going to say the data type is number. Data type is number. Okay. So Data type basically defines what kind of data your variable can hold. Okay. The third type is called Boolean. 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 Boolean means only two options, true and false. Okay. So when you create a data type that can hold Boolean data type, it can only have two values, either true, the word true, or the word false, lowercase. Okay, let's suppose I'm going to create a variable, declare a variable var, and I'm going to give it a name. Let's say is Avenger. I'm going to assign the value true. Okay, so the data type for this variable is Boolean. Okay, if you see true and false being assigned to a variable, the data type is Boolean, Boolean. Okay, no double quotes, no numbers, just the word true. Or it can also be false. Both are, it can have either true or either false. Those are the only two acceptable values for a Boolean data type. Let me make it true again. Okay.
If you put quotes around it, it'll turn into a string.
Exactly. If you put quotes around anything, it becomes string. For example, right now this is a number data type, right? If I put double quotes around it, this has now become string. If I put double quotes around it, this has become string. Okay, anytime JavaScript is going to see double quotes, it is going to make this variable data type of string. Okay. For Boolean, no double quotes. For numbers, no double quotes. Exactly a number. You can put decimal points. That will also work. It's still number. Okay. The data type, they don't have any, JavaScript doesn't have any data type called decimal or float or anything. It's still called a number. Just a generic word called number. Okay. Come back over here. Boolean, true and false, those are the only two values. String should be in double quotes, and then you can put anything you want inside those double quotes. Okay. Now there are two more data types. We are going to cover the next one towards the end of the class, and then the last one would be most probably on Saturday. Okay. But these are the first three basic ones: string, number, Boolean. Okay. And there are two more, but other than these, there are no more data types when it comes to JavaScript. Okay, so either it could be a string, a number, a Boolean, and then two more that we will cover. All right, so that is what a variable is. All right, any questions before I move on?
Is var still widely used in the industry?
It is. And I'll answer when we come to that part. The short answer, it is still widely used. And there's a reason for that. We'll talk about it. Okay? Any other questions about variables? Okay, everybody understand what a variable is used for? It is used to hold some data. Right? In our code, we are going to use variables a lot. All right? Now, the last thing I want to show over here, you have seen the naming convention. When I was creating a variable called is Avenger, it had two words in it. Is and Avenger. Okay? Now, you can create a variable called is Avenger all lowercase. That's also fine. You can create a variable is Avenger all uppercase. Right? JavaScript is not going to complain. But there are some coding standards that we follow. This standard that we follow, that your first word is going to be kind of like lowercase, starting with the lowercase. Your next word is going to have a uppercase. The first letter is going to be uppercase. This type of coding standard is called camel casing. This is called camel casing. Okay, so whenever you are declaring your variables, we are going to follow the camel casing standard. Okay, for example, I want to create a variable. This is a demo variable. Okay, some data. Did you see that I followed the camel casing? I had a variable name which is this, just to differentiate between this so that it's easier on their eyes and you can read it. The first word is lowercase, and every subsequent one has in uppercase the first letter and then the word. Okay. Now you can write this as all as lowercase, or you can write it with underscores. Let's say we can say this is a demo variable and something. Okay, all of these are acceptable. All right, the JavaScript will never complain that this is how you create a variable. Now, when you're submitting your code for review, that's when when people are reviewing, they will complain and they will say, please remove underscores, use camel casing. Usually, that's the standard. Okay, when you are working, make sure you are following the coding standard. Usually, companies have a coding book where they mention how you should be declaring your variables and all that stuff. All right, in this course, this is standard practice, so you will see me creating variables and other things using camel casing format. Okay, there are other format. As we go through, I'll give you the name. One is called kebab case. There's a snake case. As we go along, I'll explain what those are. But this thing is called camel casing. Okay, and that's what I'll be following for now. All right. Any questions? No underscores. No underscores. Yeah, I hate underscores, but underscores have a place, and when we get to some point, um, there might be, but usually it is camel casing. Yeah. Any other questions? Good. Okay. So let's do this before we move on to some other concept. Let's do exercise number 3. Okay. So in exercise number 3, you will have some variables. Make sure you read the README file. You don't have to modify the stuff on the top, you just have to modify some of the variables. So let me go ahead and open exercise number 3 called pizza variables. Let's open this. Let's look at the README. Okay, fill in the missing JavaScript code to create variables. So let's look at our file. Okay, so you have to fill in the code between line number 19 and 20 only. Create 3 variables, one called name, pizza count, and one called is hungry. The name of the variable should kind of hint you what kind of data types are these going to be, string, number, or boolean. So create three variables, name, pizza count, and is hungry. So following the same syntax, var name, and let's assign, this is going to be a string. So let's assign some, say, a name. Okay. The second is pizza count, looks like a number. So pizza count following the camel casing and assign a number to it. Okay. The last one is hungry, looks to be true or false. This means it's a boolean. So var is hungry is equal to true. Okay. So these are the three lines that this activity is asking you to do. When you do this, you should see these alerts. We'll go through what alerts do, but for now, the activity is saying that you need to create these three variables. Name, pizza count, is hungry, just like I showed you in the previous one.
Is there a JavaScript file somewhere? How does it know that the pizza count?
So you see these script tags? That's why. So remember I was saying you can put your code in the script tag or create a separate one. Anything that is between script tag means JavaScript. So in this case, they are putting inside the body, inside the script tag. But if you wanted to extract this out, you would create a separate file. So you can say pizza variables.js. Okay, and then you can extract this code out. Everything from your script tag out to this one. Now this is JavaScript, you don't need the HTML script tags over here, so you can remove these. Format your document. Okay, so this is now my separate JavaScript file. The only thing remaining is I need to include this. So I will say script source dot slash pizza variables. Okay, same thing. I just removed it out from my HTML. Okay, as I was saying, most of the activities are still going to follow this. When you're doing at your home, I would recommend separating it out so that you guys get in the habit of it. But these are the three things that were supposed to be done. Okay. All right. Any questions on variables? Any question on the activity? These were the three lines that were supposed to be completed as part of this activity. Okay. No questions? All right. So let's move on to the next one. The next concept that I'm going to cover is, let me open my example file again. And this time I am over here. This is probably the most widely used line in any JavaScript code. Okay, and once you get into JavaScript, you'll be using console log a lot. If you are not, if you ask a question, the first response you're going to get is from the TAs or myself, anybody, you do console log it. Okay, so I'm going to cover this, what it means, and what can you do with console log. Okay, so the word console log just means write something to the console. Okay, log means write, you're going to write something. And where are you going to write this? You're going to write this to the console. Okay, so what is the console when it comes to JavaScript, when it comes to browser? Remember, if you, let's go ahead and run this first so that this opens up. In your inspect or Chrome developer tools, we looked at the elements tab. the tab over here says console. This is what console means. So anytime when you use console log, to write something, it shows up in your browser over here under the console tab. Okay, that's what console means when we talk about JavaScript, when we talk about the browser. Okay, so basically you are saying write this to the console, which is inspector tools console tab. It's going to show up over here. Okay, if you want to for some reason clear this console from here, eventually you're going to have like too much information, because if you do a too much console logs, this sign over here, this is clear console, you can click on it and it will clear the console. Okay, your code will still be there, this is just clearing this console. Okay, now how do we write something to this console? We'll go back to our code. Okay, and then the statement for console log is console dot log semicolon and parentheses. Okay, again the syntax is console dot log and parentheses. Okay, this is telling the JavaScript code that please go ahead and log or write something to the console. Okay, and where's the console? This is your browser inspector tool, and then over here. Okay, now what do you want to write on the console? Anything that you want to write on the console, you're going to write it between these two brackets over here. Okay, for example, I want to see what does my variable age holds. Okay, so I'm going to type in age. Okay, what is going to happen? JavaScript is going to look over here, and then it is going to go to this variable, find the value, and then print it out on the console. So on the console, you should see the value 35. Okay. Now let's suppose you want to console log the data that is inside the variable name. Okay, so you can do the same thing, console.log name. Oops. Semicolon. Okay, so we'll see Carol Danvers. Let's go back over here. Okay, that's one way. So if you put in a variable name, it is going to console log the data that is inside that variable. Okay, now maybe you don't want to look at the data, you want to type something out, just a string. So you can do this way. Oops. Double quotes, write this to the console. Okay, this is a string. If you put anything in double quote, it is going to print exactly that on your console. Okay, so it says write this to the console. So we are looking at two ways. The first way, one of the ways is you're trying to find out what is the data inside your variable. You're going to put the variable name, age, without quotes. If you put quotes around it, what is going to happen? It is going to think this is a string, and it is going to write the word age on your console. Okay, so if you are trying to see what your variable holds, what data your variable has, make sure you're not putting double quotes around it. Okay, suppose you want to output a number. Oh, it's already doing age string. The same thing with a boolean, so you can say console.log and is Avenger. Okay, this is a boolean data type. It is going to output true. Okay, this will output the exact string. If you want to output a number, you can do the same thing. Without the variable, you can put the number, let's say 42, and this is going to output the word, the number 42. Okay, now you can also do some calculation. Let's suppose you do 42 plus 2. JavaScript is smart enough, it is going to go ahead and complete this calculation for you and going to output the result. Basically write the result to your console. So example over here, It's going to say 44. Okay. The important point over here is what is console.log? What does it do? It takes something and puts it on your console over here. Okay. Why is it used? When you are debugging your JavaScript code, this is the most widely used statement. Okay. Make note of it. Right now, you might be like, well, I don't see a use of it. You will see a use of it. Okay. You're going to be using a lot of console logs. Okay, because when you're trying to debug your code, you're not sure what's going on. You are going to output these variable names, whatever you have in your code, to see what data resides in your variable names. Okay, right now it's pretty simple. We are assigning the name over here. We know what it is. Eventually, you will see you will have some data based on some other um, areas, and you will want to see what is in that variable. Okay, so that's what console.log means. Okay, what is not important right now is what is this dot doing, what is this log, what are these parentheses. These things will come in time. Okay, trust me, I'm going to explain each one of them. The only thing is we need to know a couple of more things before I start explaining what is the significance of this dot, what is the significance of these parentheses, what do these mean. Okay, but not far Thursday or by Saturday we should be able to break this down and understand each one of them. Okay, for today I'm showing this because it is important and we are going to be using this a lot. Right now, the understanding is if you want to type something out, if you want to see something on the console, which is on your browser, you're going to use a statement called console.log. Okay? All right, any questions?
What can you not do in the brain?
What can you not do in the
Arguing,
parentheses?
maybe anything you can do. Let's see, have a condition.
You can I don't know what you can do at top of my head, but it's almost everything you can do console log. I'm not sure if there's anything that I have been restricted because I was using console log. It might be my code, the way I'm writing it, but console log is almost you should be able to do everything with console log. Okay. As you progress, if there is something that comes across, in my experience, I'm not sure. I don't think there's anything that I have ever said, oh, I won't be able to console log this. Um, it does. That's where I will stop. Okay. We'll come to that. For now, this is what console log does. Okay. Again, and the reason is I don't want to confuse a lot of people. This is the first time they're actually seeing what a variable is. Once we get to it, you will see what other things are. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So let's do this. Do activity number 5. Okay. It's kind of similar one that you guys did previously. That activity is going to just tell you to use console log instead of the alerts. Okay. And then we'll come back and see what those alerts are. So this is activity number 5. So let's open 5. Activity number 5. Use the file above as a guide. Modify the code so that it uses console log. Okay, so let's look at our file over here. So it is saying replace alert with console log. So instead of alert, you are going to use console log and remove the alert. So the hint is you don't have to change anything within this. All you have to do is replace alert with console.log. This part is already done for you, so you don't have to worry about these brackets over here.
Great power comes great responsibility. And it's very, very useful to very personal that there's that. Very quick. Right? What are the instructions? Console, is JavaScript also considered script?
Yes, that's the official name for JavaScript today. So ECMA is the organization that owns JavaScript now. It's like open source. Initially, Netscape used to own it, and they sold it off to Oracle. Oracle owns it, but ECMA is the organization that controls what are the new features that are going to be included in JavaScript, what needs to be taken out, and all that stuff. So the official name for JavaScript is ECMA six that your browser supports. There are, I think they're on number nine or something, but your browser doesn't support. Only Chrome latest one supports those, but six is I would say like 80% supported or 85%. They're trying to do 100%.
Shorthand,
It's short and yes, yeah, it's becoming a big standard. But the only problem with that is if your website opens up on IE or something, that arrow syntax doesn't work. So if you know the audience, it has become more popular with React because React enforces you to use arrow functions, but behind the scenes they will convert it into like a regular one so that it opens up in every single one. That's why it's a big one.
success.
But if you know you're writing vanilla JavaScript, if your target audience is going to open your website on IE, then you can't use the arrow function. It's not going to run because IE is not on that version. Huh? Well, that's why they use frameworks like React because React will automatically write it in that folder. You don't have to worry about it. Yes, but if you were writing it, you wouldn't even use arrow function. You would just write and the older version. That's the same with this keyword var. The same thing. Var is recognized in every single browser, but the other keywords they are not recognized in the older browsers. So it's good to know both of them, the difference. Most probably you won't have to use the word var, but you should know the difference and why. Huh? They they are the same thing. There is difference, and it's to do with scoping. I don't know if you know scope. So that's the difference when it comes to water. We'll cover that as well, but that's really the scoping. All right. So for this one, we have alert. We are replacing with this console.log. So you have to do is console.log. Okay, the rest of the stuff is already done for you. Okay, remember I showed you the addition of numbers. If you add two strings, it's going to concatenate or make like one big string. Okay, and we will run this and I'll show you. So the exercise was replace alert with console.log, and then this is already there, so you don't have to change anything. It has brackets with string in it, so that's okay. Then console.log, and then console.log. Now if you run this, you should see on your browser over here. So if I run this file, okay, you should see all the output in your console. Let's go back to our console here. Okay, so you see what the addition with string does. Remember, if you put in two numbers, it's going to add them up. If you put a plus sign with a string, it is going to make it like one big string over here. It's going to combine. The word for that is concatenation. All right, so it's going to combine two strings and make it one big string. Numbers, if you give two numbers, it's going to add them, do a sum. You give a minus, it's going to subtract them, all that stuff. If you give it as a string, it's going to combine and make it one big string. Okay, but if you complete this, you should be able to see all of these in your console. Yes. 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 You see, there's a space over here. If you take out the good question. If you take the space out, the space kind of goes away from here now. Right. So within the quotes, everything matters. If you put in two spaces, it will show you two spaces, 3, 4. Outside, not so much. So over here, if I add more spaces, it's not going to do anything. Okay. Within the quotes, everything matters because your program behind the scene, a space is also a character when it comes to keyboard and your programming. W, E, these are all characters. Even a space is also a character if it is in double quotes. So it does matter. Okay, good question. So for example, over here you see intentionally there's no space because you want the dollar sign right next to the number. So that's why no space over here. So kind of it's next to it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So let's take a break. We'll start back at 8 o'clock. We'll take a 15 or 17 minutes break. We'll start at 8 o'clock.
Are you
Yes.
running live server when you were doing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when I launch it without live server, that's fine. But when I launch it with live server, I just want to show you this error that I get.
Did you open the folder?
Um, so when I do live server and I go to inspect,
Okay.
it has this weird message at the bottom: dev tools failed to parse source media. But when I do regular launch,
No, that's fine. It's yeah. This is just like a warning. It seems like you have some extension called whatever the extension is called,
I
and
must have
that's
some extension messing things up. Okay.
yeah. So it's causing this issue, but you know it's a warning.
Just because I know when we're using JavaScript, I'd like to have live server up
Yeah,
and running.
yeah.
I should probably then check my extensions and.
Yeah, it looks like they're seeing this extension called GI map, whatever.
Okay.
It's causing some issues.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the code. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I accidentally deleted some files. The main repo. If I do a pull, well, I get those files back.
If you do a pull, yes.
So right now, still missing a CSS file.
This
Original
is
clone.
so if you go back to this is your GitHub, right?
Yeah, this is like
Yeah. Go back to that.
lost
Oh no,
that
so
too.
is this a copy? But this is actually GitHub.
Yeah, yeah.
This, so again, remember the process. So anytime that anything changes locally, like you run it on a file, you do something, you did. Now you can track that. You'll know like you changed something. So when you do a status, that says, hey, I noticed that you changed these files, but you have not added them. That's that so just do a git because the word is hard to start. And they seem to do that. So like it's a like add yeah. So now you want well do you yeah. So now you
See, there's a command for git ignore or go back. Git revert. Mm,
now you can see now so that one
try git reset. Try git reset. The thing is, you haven't committed it, so we can't use revert. Maybe that's it. Git reset. What is it saying?
Prints
The whole thing.
the
Maybe do git reset space minus minus hard HARD.
it says edit now at
Okay. So did that bring everything back now?
okay, go back. Well, if you want to get rid of that, so now it's the option. So basically, you add and it grows. It's just an update. So how about you would still do your add is based on and then it's It wouldn't do it previously because it was outside. Now it's adding up. Oh, okay.
Get more. Yes.
You think I'll be okay with just ignoring it
Yeah.
as I go through?
Yeah.
Because like when I look at my extensions, none of them have that name, so I don't know.
It should be okay. Yeah, you're not going to. Yeah.
It should be fine.
Yeah. Try it. Yeah, you can add them. Try this get space clean minus F. So what I'm trying to do is since the like it brings back the get clean space minus F. Okay. Get clean space minus F. So yeah, you cannot add or delete anything. I was just trying to save the trouble, so somehow Git does it for you. So it means force, force. Yeah, you're kind of forcing. You're saying, I know what I'm doing. Uh, delete all the files. Forcing. Yeah. Now, so algorithms are common across all the languages. It's just the language that you know how what to code it. You can use Python for the same thing. Code will be limited to the logic. You can write the exact same algorithm. Usually it works, but since we know JavaScript has a language. Yeah.
I think I was conceptually like frustrating myself, thinking like, okay, phone first.
Yeah.
So naturally, I'm like thinking, okay, well, if I want to do phone first, that would be multiple rows, one column, technically speaking, you know. But then I'm like, okay, how do I expand it from there? And I started looking into like the XS versus like the
Yeah.
SM,
Right.
and then I noticed other people weren't really combining those, and I feel like
Well,
I'm just.
well, first thing is,
But then I
if
don't really
you're
understand that
if you're
too
using
much.
XS, this means you're using the older version of Bootstrap.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm
The
looking at the
newer
wrong
number,
stuff.
yeah. If you're using 4, there's no
I
XS.
wasn't sure like which articles were up to date. I think I was shooting myself in the foot looking at W3 School's Bootstrap instead of like the
So,
regular Bootstrap,
right. So
maybe.
any question you ask on Stack Overflow, just say Bootstrap 4. Then it will only show you the articles.
Wait, Stack Overflow. That's like a good place for
Yeah.
questions.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I haven't been using that.
Yeah, or if you're googling something,
Okay.
you're trying to find out, make sure you say Bootstrap and then mention the number 4, because XS is like the older, like
Okay.
version 3.
Gotcha.
In your code right now, you don't need XS.
In the homework, are we expected to combine like this? You remember how at the very end you combined like small with large
Yeah.
to make it more dynamic? That's something we should be doing.
Right. If you're trying to show up on your mobile phone and you want different columns to take up more space, that's one.
I guess
You can do
when
it
I
with
was doing the wiring, I was kind of confused. Okay, am I doing the layout in my head for a computer or a phone? When you
for a
say
phone. So,
when I do the wire,
oh, the wire, the
Right.
wireframe.
when I plan it out,
Oh, okay, yeah.
should
yeah,
I be
yeah.
thinking phone or like desktop?
Both.
'Cause-
Both.
okay,
So
so
you
the
need to have a
two.
wireframe for phones, right? So you have your picture over here, you'll have your about over here. Maybe that's all you want on your
I
phone.
just it
And
was.
in your desktop,
It felt like
you
all
want
too much. I'm like, okay, where do I start? It's just
this
like,
thing, you have this thing.
Gotcha.
So this is your phone, this is your. So in this case, you have.
I had like an image here. I was trying to make it like when I expanded, the text would go from the bottom of the image to the right of the image.
Yeah.
I was just trying to do stuff like that. So,
Okay.
Yeah. But that's used with those combinations, right? Small,
Yes.
large.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I have to play around with
In
that
this
more.
case, they will stack up. In this case, they are right next to each other, so just hard.
Keep trying.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Let's look at the next concept. All right. So the next part we are going to look at is I combine all of these into one word called pop-ups. Basically, there are pop-ups, and we'll see what these each one of them do. Okay. So there are three kind of pop-ups: alerts, prompts, and confirms. Okay. So you have already seen alert, so I'll go through alert and kind of recap what alert is doing. Okay. So uh, let's start with the first one, alert. Let me go over here. Okay. The syntax for using alert is alert, and then similar to console log, you will have brackets and semicolon. Okay. Uh, Same concept as your console log. You can put anything, variable name, string, number within these brackets over here. Okay, these parentheses. Same concept as console log. The only difference is uh, the text, the variable, the data that you put inside alert between these two parentheses is going to show up on your browser as a pop-up, as a pop-up window. Okay, for example, if I say, um, uh, let's say managers, some, okay, just a string, all right? So if I run this code, my HTML, you will see a pop-up come up over here. Okay. On the top, you can ignore this part. This is what alert is showing. Okay. Anything that you type in, just like your console log, alert does the same thing. The only difference is it shows up as a pop-up on your browser. Okay. And it's going to have a single button called OK. Okay. When you press OK, it goes on to the next line. Okay. Right now, I don't have anything after the next line, so the program kind of exists out. Okay. Same thing. You can have alert variable names that were on the top. You can have name. Okay. So it shows up the first one, and then it shows up. Oh, my name doesn't have anything. Maybe let's go back and see that. What happened to my the? What am I missing? Oh, the double quotes. No, since it's a variable name, it should show up. It's probably my page is not refreshed, so there it is. Yeah. So again, if you're using the variable name, you do not need quotes. All right, just same as your console log. So what is this going to do? It is going to look up this variable name that is on the top, and then find what data is assigned to it, and it will show up that in your alert. Okay. So alert simply takes the data, takes whatever you are putting between the parentheses, and shows up as a pop-up. Console log, the difference, console log shows up in your console, which is go to inspect and the console tab. Console log, anything that you write in your console log shows up over here. Anything that you write in your alert shows up as a pop-up window. That's the main difference between these two. Okay, same math operations. You can combine two strings. Everything that you can do with console log, you can do the same thing with alert. The only difference is alert shows up as a pop-up. Okay. The second one is called we'll cover confirm. Okay, so we covered alert. The second pop-up is called confirm. So confirm, as the name says, you are most probably going to ask a question from the user, and they're going to confirm it saying yes or no. Remember when you're trying to delete something, it says, are you sure you want to delete? Those kind of questions can be asked using confirm. Okay, so let's go ahead and type that out and see how the pop-up box changes. I'm going to stop this, otherwise it's going to keep doing the alert. I'm going to comment this out. Okay, now if you want to comment any code out in JavaScript, it is 2/. Comment basically means that your JavaScript is going to ignore this code and not execute that code. Okay, so these are called comments. So in the comment you can write anything that will be ignored, will not be rendered. So this is a comment. There's another way to write comment, and as we progress I'll show you the other way as well. Okay, so since I have commented this code out, this means this code is not going to get executed. I'm going to work on my confirm. Okay, so it's going to be confirm, same syntax, parentheses, and within this you are going to most probably going to ask a question, and the reason is you will see how the pop-up box shows up. Let's say, do you like some... Okay, so I'm going to ask a question. When I run this, it is going to, oops, wrong file. Okay, so similar to alert, this is another pop-up that will show up a pop-up box. The only difference is instead of just OK, it has two buttons now, cancel and OK. Okay, cancel means basically no, and OK means yes. Okay, now if I say these are two Boolean data types, what would this translate to? Cancel would mean false, and OK would mean true. Okay, we'll see what it actually comes back is. But when you type in a confirm, you are most probably going to ask a question, and the question will be answered with OK or cancel. That's the difference between alert and confirm. Yes.
So if you would use prompt, you ask somebody like you, like Captain America, and you said they put it into a false. So now it's technically a string, right?
Yes, and we're going to come to prompt. Yeah, I'll answer that. But the short answer, yes. Okay. So confirm is when you're asking a question, and the difference is going to say OK or cancel. Okay. Based on that, you are going to do the next step. But this is what confirm means. Okay. So right now, if I do OK or if I do cancel, it doesn't matter. Why? Because I'm not doing anything after this. Okay. So when you're using confirm, you need to know what the user answered, right? Did they select cancel or did they select OK? Right, that's the reason you're using confirm. That this is based on something else. Now, based on what the user answered, I'm going to do something else. Okay, now how do I capture what the user answered? Remember, the user is answering cancel or OK. Okay, remember these data types. This is eventually whatever the answer is, it's data to our program. Okay, so how do we capture, how do we store data? We use variables, right? So whatever the user answer, we are going to store that answer into a variable. Okay, because that's the only way you can store the data or the response, whatever is coming back. All right, now how do we store in a variable? We can declare a variable and say var. Okay, let's call it question. Let's call it answer because you're going to get an answer back. Okay, equal to and this thing. Okay, now what is happening? I'm creating a variable and I'm storing the answer to this confirm pop-up. Okay, now remember what am I going to get back? Either I'm going to get back cancel or okay. Those are the only two options that I'm going to get back. Okay, now to see what is going to be stored over here, we can do a console log and then kind of see what's coming up. Or you can do an alert, both of them are fine. Let's do an alert since that's what we are on. If I say alert, answer, once I answer this question, either okay or cancel, something is going to get stored over here, but I don't know right now what is it going to get stored. So I want to see what gets stored. I can use console log to see what gets stored or alert. Both of them will work. Okay, so that's the use of variables, that's the use of console log or alert. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. So let me cancel this, refresh. I have a question, do you like Captain America? The first case I'm going to select OK. Okay, and then after this line number 30 gets executed, alert and answer, And what does it show? It says true. Okay, so this tells me if I press OK, I'm going to get back a value which would be true. And what is the data type for true? It's a boolean. So I'm going to get a boolean value back. Okay, let's try the cancel one. So if I refresh this again, this time if I press cancel, I'm going to get back false. Okay, so this means if you press OK, you're going to get back true. If you press cancel, you're going to get back false. Okay, why are they important? They'll be important in the next part. Okay, but remember, alert just shows up, it doesn't give you back anything. Confirm is going to give you either true or false. Those are the only two things it's going to give. Okay, if the user presses OK, it's going to give you back true. If they press cancel, it's going to give you back false. And you can store that in a variable, what we did in the previous activity. Okay, the last one is prompt. What does prompt do? Let's go back here, stop this so that it doesn't keep bringing it up. I'm going to comment this out and I'm going to use prompt. Prompt is when you are asking a question, but it's an open-ended question. The answer to that question is not going to be yes or no or true or false. Okay, let's suppose you are saying enter your favorite Avenger. Okay, now the answer to this question is not going to be true or false. You need to mention, you need to type in something. Okay, when you need to type in something, you use prompt. And let's go ahead and refresh this. You will see how prompt shows up. Again, this is also a pop-up, so a pop-up box will show up. The only difference is it shows up with a box, a place where you can enter the text. Okay, this is called an input box. If you remember from the HTML, this is called an input box. But when you use a prompt, you are going to get a pop-up with a box where you can enter something and then two buttons, cancel and OK. Okay, now similar to your confirm, remember if you press OK, when you press cancel, you get true or false back. Similar to the same thing, we need to find out what the user has entered. So the data, we need to store that in a variable as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix that first. We will say var answer prompt, and to see what it was entered, we will say alert. We will say alert. Oh my god, babies. Alert answer. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this and see in both cases what happens when I press OK and what happens when I press cancel. Okay, so let's suppose I'm going to enter okay, and then press OK. What does the answer have? Answer has the exact same thing that I typed in my prompt. Okay, when you press OK, you are going to get that whatever you have typed in. Okay, and then you can press OK, nothing happens, it's just going to disappear because I don't have anything else. All right, now let's go ahead and refresh and see what happens if I press cancel. It gives you a value back saying no. Okay, remember if you press cancel in case of confirm, it gives you back false. In case of prompt, if you press cancel, it gives you null. Null basically means there is no value. That's what it means. Okay, for now just remember, null means that the value does not exist. You press cancel, there is no value inside stored inside this variable. It is called null. Okay, now hold on, Scott. Remember, I actually did type in something and then press cancel. It doesn't matter. Okay, if you press cancel, it is going to ignore whatever you have typed in and assign Null, which means an absence of any value because you press cancel. Okay. This is the same as not typing anything and pressing cancel. Both cases, it's just null. Okay. Let's go back over here. All right. So confirm. If you press cancel, gives you false. If you press cancel on a prompt, it gives you null, which basically means that the user did not enter anything over here. Okay. Now this is a little bit different if you type in a space. Okay, let's see if I press space, what happens. Again, remember space is also a character. When it comes to JavaScript, when it comes to computer, space, it refers to it as a character as well. Why? Because it is taking something behind the scenes. Okay, so if you go back over here, remember I just press spaces. Okay, to us, it looks empty, but to the computer behind the scenes, it is that you have entered 5 or 6 spaces. So if you press OK, it is going to show you these spaces over here. You see when I highlight it, these are the number of spaces. Okay, so space does not mean it's null. It means it has a value. It's just space. Okay, for us, it doesn't mean anything, but be on your, this is a warning, sometimes people have an extra space and then they're like, well, I don't see anything, there's no value. Remember, for a program, space does mean something. Okay, what is an absence of value? It's this null. Null to computer means that you have not typed in anything. The space also does not exist. That's what null means. Okay, so there's a difference between null and hitting your space bar or space. Null to a computer means that you have not entered anything. It's null, it's empty. Okay, but if you have a space, it means you did enter something and you entered space. Yes, Scott.
So, if we reflecting like what you were saying about, are you sure you want to cancel or are you sure you want to do this? Is it when you click OK, obviously it's not going to pull up an alert, so is there somewhere else that can scroll through? Is that an answer to confirm?
The answer to the confirm is only going to get stored in this variable. That's all. Now you can skip alert, you can skip this, but you're missing out that right. But the only place it is going to get stored is whatever variable that you have over here. That's the only place.
If you're confirming on the cancellation or something like this, you better cancel and you say yes, that doesn't get stored in.
No, unless you have this. JavaScript is expecting that I'm going to tell you whether they selected OK or cancel in the form of true and false. Now it is up to you to do something based on that answer. If you ignore it,
That's where the console log will come in for us to the responses of that.
no. Console log is also, let me comment this out. So console log and alert are same. The only difference is if you do console log over here, console.log, then only you will see the answer in your console log. If you don't have this console log, it's still ignored. So if you do console log, then it is going to go ahead and answer that. So if I go back over here, let's open my console. Oh no, it's going to show up here. Let's open this and then press OK. Now if you go back to your console, you will see this value true coming back. Okay, but it is your responsibility to have this answer stored somewhere. JavaScript is going to give you back. If you don't console log, you don't do alert, or you don't do anything else, it's just ignored. Okay, it is our responsibility to do something with that answer. Right now we are just console logging. Right now we are just alerting. Later on we'll see we can do a little bit more stuff with that answer, but it's our responsibility to do something with it. JavaScript is just going to return you whatever the user answered. That's all. Okay. Let me.
These pop-ups considered methods?
Yes.
They are.
Yes.
So the variable that we're getting back with the prompt, is that a string or is that
Oh, good question. That's a good question. I'm sorry if I'm answering small, and the reason is because I don't want to confuse it. But you get the answer. That's a good question. So the question is, the variable. What is the data type for this variable? A string. Remember the data type for this one is Boolean. For this case, it is a string. Okay, it's not going to be a number, it's not going to be a Boolean, it's going to be a string. Even if you enter a number in this answer, it is still going to give you back as a string. Because prompt has no idea if you're going to enter a number, it doesn't have the capacity, it doesn't want to spend time to find out if you're entering a Boolean or a number or something else. It just assumes I'm going to give you back a string. Okay? So for example, if you enter, go back here, this is running, enter your, let's change this, enter a number. Okay, even if you enter a number over here, remember the value that you're going to get back over here is going to have the data type of a string. So if you try to add that number to something else, it is going to give, it is not going to add it as a number. It's going to combine it with a string. For example, remember if you put in 35 and then do plus 2, it's going to give you an answer 37. But since this is a string, it is going to say 35 and then 2. Because it is going to consider this as a string. And remember what happens when you combine two strings? It concatenates, it puts next to each other. So that's what this is going to do. So it is important to remember the answer, the response that you get back from prompt is of data type string. It's not a number, it's not a Boolean, it's a string. Okay? JavaScript. Java doesn't have prompt, they have something else. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. So, again, it's a very loaded question. It just depends what you're using. But yeah, there are some languages who would give you back a number. Yes, that's the short answer. But in JavaScript, it is always going to give you back a string. It is going to ignore everything else. It doesn't care if you enter a number or a Boolean. In prompt, you're always going to get back a string. Okay, make a note of it. When we get to the addition part, we have to be sure that this is a string. So if you add two strings, it is going to concatenate, it is going to combine like this, not like this. Okay, we do have an exercise and we'll see in one of those exercises as well. Okay, so these are the three things. Alert doesn't return anything, it just shows you a pop-up with whatever you put in. Okay, confirm gives you back something which will be true or false, Boolean. Okay, the last one, prompt. Prompt is going to give you back a string, a free form text. It will show up a pop-up box with an input box. You can enter anything, press cancel or OK, and then it's going to give you that back. Okay, so this is alert, confirm, and prompt. All right, any questions? Yes.
Just so, let me make sure I understand it right.
Yes.
So let's say I have a website and I put a pop-up, what is your name?
Yes.
300 people go to my website and put their name. How do I retrieve those names?
Right, we'll get to that point. We haven't gone that far.
Okay.
Yeah, again, as I said, right now, this is a good question, but the thing is, we are covering these things in chunks. Right now, you probably don't even see a user. You're like, well, what am I going to do with this? Yes, just wait it out. 2 weeks out, this would be your least concern, I'm telling you. You'll be like, yeah, I have like too many things to worry about, then how do I do it? I'll get to the storing part, I'll show you everything, okay? All right, just that's why I want to cover the smaller concepts. Again, if you're learning the language, these are again important. You might be thinking the reason is I'm typing all this out, it makes sense. Please make sure go back and do it yourself. It is a bit more difficult than it seems. All right, so we'll get to that part, don't worry about it. I'll show you how to store
So I was
300
just wondering,
people
does
and
the
everything.
pop-up answer question?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
I read the answer for.
Yes, yeah, we're going to store everything. Yeah, we'll get to that. All right, any other questions? Okay, so let's do activity number 7. Activity number 7. So you're going to use each one of them. Let's open up activity number 7. prompt sushi. Okay, use confirm, user prompt, and alert both variables to the screen. Okay. Oh, so you have to write the whole code now. Write JavaScript the code that use a confirm, ask the user, do you like, and any kind of sushi. Store their response in a variable. That's just how I showed you. Use a prompt, ask the user what kind of sushi name do you like. Store their response in a variable, similar that I showed you. And then use alert to show both variables on the screen. So the first one asks to use a confirm, and it's a question. So in your HTML, User confirm, ask the user, do you like sushi? Store the response in a variable. Okay? So confirm, double quotes, do you like sushi? Semicolon. Right? That's what it says. Use confirm as the user this. So this part is this line. The next part, it says store the response in a variable. So we are going to create a variable var, let's say sushi confirm response, and I'm going to store this inside this variable. That's the first step. So confirm, store it in a variable. The second one is similar, using a prompt. Using a prompt, ask the user what kind of sushi do you like, store the response in a variable. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So when the alerts gonna pop up on the screen. So you can say here, you want to answer.
Same thing with a prompt. The question is, what kind of sushi do you like? And you have to store that in a variable. So I'm going to start with a variable and say sushi prompt response is equal to prompt,
Yes, exactly. So this confirm pops up on the
and the question was, what kind of sushi do you like?
and then you're saying, hey, tell me what
Semicolon. Okay, so the second point was using a prompt, ask the user what kind of sushi do you like. So that's what I did. Prompt, what kind of sushi do you like? Store the response in a variable. So I created a variable. You can name anything you want, and this is getting stored over here. Okay, all of this is in a single line. Since I'm resizing my Visual Studio, so kind of brings it to the second line, but it doesn't matter. Everything is actually on just a single line. Okay, the last one is you're going to alert both these variables that you have, and then when you run the code, it should show up your responses eventually. So the last one is alert both variables on the screen. So you're going to say alert, and the first variable, which is sushi confirm response, and then alert the second variable, so alert sushi prompt response. Now when you run it, first you should get a confirm, then a prompt, and then an alert with whatever the responses were.
well, so what you could do is you yeah, I mean,
Question? Good? Oh, you should be able to read this by the.
You kept turning away.
Oh, okay. Now you get the.
Well, I mean, we haven't gotten to info since.
Oh yeah, that's why I said at the end of the class, you guys can read this. All right. Any questions on this activity?
For now, that's the way it is. Instead of popping up a word, they just print it out.
In that activity? In activity or?
Or just say that one in general.
Uh huh. Let's look at the.
What's happening inside those quotes?
Right. This one?
Yeah.
This is a string, right? Remember double quotes? String. So this is exactly it is going to print out on your confirm box. That is exactly what it is going to show. Yes. It is taking this input. It is taking this and showing it on the screen. So if I run this code, shows up do you like sushi? This is exactly whatever you typed in over here. Again, exactly like this. Why? Because it is in double quotes. Okay, so when you type in double quotes, anything and everything that you type in over here, it is going to show you exactly like that. Then you are telling JavaScript that this is a variable. If you don't have double quotes, it means you are typing in a variable. And if you have spaces, then it's going to get confused and give you not work. If you don't have double quotes, it means you are giving a variable. For example, alert, I don't have double quotes around it. Why? Because this is a variable. If you put in double quotes, this means this is a string and it's going to give you exactly like it is. So now it says, do you like sushi? I say, okay. And it comes to the next question. Okay. It has stored my response over here and then it goes to the next line. It goes from top to bottom. So it says, what kind of sushi do you like? So I say, okay. Now it is going to store this response in this variable. The next line is alert and show me what was stored in this variable. So then when I press OK, it shows me true. Why? Because I answered OK. So this variable has true and this will have California roll. If I press OK, it comes to line number 15 and says alert, show me the data that's inside this variable. It is this one. Okay, double quotes, string, without double quotes, variable. Yes, Thomas.
For the responses part, is that the only thing you can put in there for after the bar? That's like the only thing you can put there?
You have to give a name. You can put any name you want, but it has to be a name, like a variable name. So it doesn't have to be exactly this. You can say sushi confirm response scr. I mean that's confusing, but you can put anything you want. This thing. Uh huh. No, it can be prompt also. See on the next line, it is prompt, but it has to have something. Yes. Or remember, we were assigning values on the top where we said var name is equal to a string. That's also one option. Confirm we are putting over here because confirm is giving us something back, giving us some data back, and we need to store this somewhere. So we are using a variable to store the response from confirm. That's why. So you have different options over here. Yes. So remember the pizza variables? We were using this. In confirm, we are using this. Basically, we are saying you need to store something. All right. Any questions on this particular activity before we move on? All right. So let's get back. The next one we are going to look at is conditional statements. Okay. So we looked at variables, alerts, prompt, pop-ups. Let's keep this over here. The next thing is called conditional statements. So a lot of cases we looked at confirm or like prompt, right? You're asking a question. Based on the answer, you want to take some actions. If somebody answers this, if somebody, you ask a question and somebody answers this way, you need to take some action based on that answer. The other case would be that somebody answered a different way and then you need to take some action based on that answer. Every time you have to make a decision, it's called a conditional statement. Okay? Anytime you have to take a decision in a code, it is done through conditional statements. When talking about code, what are those conditional statements? They are called if else. If else. Okay. So basically, you are making a decision based on if else. You are saying if this happens, then do this. Else, do this. That's what you are saying. So you're going to say if somebody answers in this manner, execute this code. Otherwise, execute this code. So you're trying to take a decision. Okay. For example, let's say I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to say var confirm favorite Avenger, and then I'm going to ask a question using confirm. I'm going to say is Captain America your favorite Avenger? Okay, so there are two options to it, right? Yes or no, true or false. Now, if somebody answers yes, then I need to do something. If they say no, then I need to do something else. So I have to have a decision. For that, I need a conditional statement, which is if else. Okay. Now the syntax for that is if brackets and then curly braces. Now what does this mean? Between your brackets over here, this is a condition that you are trying to evaluate. Okay, what does this mean? If somebody answers yes, then I'm going to do some code over here. Okay, let me type in this code so you guys can, then I will explain. Okay, so remember when you're using if else, if within these brackets you have to type in a condition. This is called a condition. Okay, now what does that condition evaluates to? It can evaluate to either true or false. Those are the only two options. Okay, the answer to this condition is going to be either true or false. It cannot be anything else. Okay, so if this condition evaluates to true, then whatever code that you have over here is going to get executed. This code executes if condition is true. Okay. Now, in case where this condition evaluates to false, you have else. This is going to get executed. This code executes if it evaluates to false. Let me put it in a different line so you guys can see it. All right, let's start again. So if the syntax is if, then you have these brackets. Okay. After the brackets, you have these curly braces. So if this condition evaluates to true, then the code that is between lines number 44, 46, between these two curly braces, anything that you write over here is going to get evaluated. It is going to ignore everything over here. Okay? Only and only if this comes out to be true. Now, how does this come out to be true? What are you saying? You're saying if the user answers true, then go ahead and do this.
Are the triple equal signs required?
They are required. Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Right now, yes. Let's go with that. But no, it's not. It's not required. But in the, I don't want to confuse. So right now, yes, it is. In the industry standard. So when you have written enough code, you will come to a natural point where you will realize that this is a redundant statement. Okay. For now, we'll go with this one. Okay. The reason is you're trying to evaluate if this, what is the value inside this variable? Is it true or is it false? Okay. So if I run this code, if I say is Captain America your favorite Avenger, if I say okay, this variable is going to have a value true, right? Then it comes to this line. You say, then it's going to check if the left hand side over here is equal to true, then go ahead and do this. Okay. For example, let's go add an alert and say alert, you like cat. Okay. Now, if I answer true, then it comes over, it evaluate, it says, oh, the data inside this variable, is it true? Yes. Then go ahead and do this. It's going to ignore everything over here. If it is not true, then it comes over here and it is going to execute the code that is in this line. So it is going to say, you don't like. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and run this so that you guys can see in action, and then come back over here. So it is asking me a question. The only choices are true and false or okay and cancel. If I say okay, I should see an alert, you like cat. Okay, so basically it is going to ignore this part. Why? Because this condition is true, so it is going to evaluate whatever code that you have over here. Okay, now if I press OK, you will see the program ends, and that's it. Okay, let's run this again. If I this time if I press cancel, what is going to happen? My confirm favorite Avenger variable is going to have the value false. Okay, it is going to come to line number 6. It is going to say, is it true? No, it actually is false. So it is going to ignore this and come to this line. So if I press cancel, it says you don't like cap. Why? Because this evaluated to false. So what does this tell? Only and only if this condition over here evaluates to true, the code over here is going to get executed. If it does not evaluate to true, this is the line that gets everything over here is going to get executed. Okay, there are only two possibilities, true or false. That's it. Over here you're going to write a statement and it is going to compare the left hand side with the right hand side and see is this true? Yes, then it's going to do it. If it is not, it's going to come over here Basically, in English, it is saying if this variable is true, then do this, otherwise, do this. All right, questions? Yes, Alex.
So when you're not assigning, you're comparing, and it's going to be 30%, just going forward.
Yes, when you are not assigning, when you are comparing, good question. When you are comparing two values, you are comparing over here this and this, then you need three equal to signs. Yes. When you are assigning, when you're storing something, then you need a single equal to. Okay? You cannot put 3 equal to over here. Oops, 4. Okay? This means something else. You cannot put a single equal to over here. It is not going to work. It means something else. You are trying to assign this value over here. Okay? You need 3 equal to over here and then a single over here. All right, any other questions? It is a comparison operator. It's called comparison operator. It is going to compare the value on the left hand side with the value on the right hand side. Okay, it's called comparison operator. All right, any other questions? Yes.
Could you do two if statements for that one? So, like, if it equals true.
Good question. Okay, so the question is, can I do two if statement? I can. You can chain them. There's one more condition. So we saw if, we saw else, and then you can combine both of them into a new condition called else if. You can say else if. Remember, if you are using if, the syntax is still the same. Okay, so you have to have these two, and then you have to have these two. Okay.
Can you put a condition on your last else?
No, else does not have a condition. Only if has a condition. Else is never going to have a condition. So same over here. These two are combined, but you will see else still doesn't have a condition. Only if can have a condition. Okay. For example, in this case, if I say if confirm Avenger is equal to false. Okay. So let's suppose I answered this question in negative. Okay, it comes over here. It's confirmed true. No, it's actually false. So it comes over here. It checks again. Else if it's going to compare these two. Is this false? Yes. Okay. So you can say alert. You said no. Okay. We'll come back and fix it. Right now, this one doesn't make sense because I'm checking there are only two possibilities, true and false. And then we'll come back and fix this one. But right now, what is happening? If you say true, this get executed. Else, if you say false, this is going to get executed. So you can chain these together. Okay. But you cannot have two ifs. You cannot do this thing. I mean, you can do it in your code, but this is now separate from this one. This is a independent condition, and this is a next if statement. So these are two independent code. They are not linked together each other at all. Okay, but if you want to link them, then you are going to link them using like this. Not the spaces, the statement. So it has to be if, else, and finish, or it has to be if, else, else. You can have multiple else ifs though. You can have one more else. In this case, it wouldn't make sense, but you can have any number of else ifs you want. Okay. The last one has to be an else, and the first one has to be an if. In between, you will have else ifs as many as you want. Okay. But you can only have one else independently, and you can only have one if independently. Okay. Now in your code, you can have multiple ifs, but remember they are going to be separate. They are not going to be linked together, or as we say, they are not going to be chained together. So These are two independent if conditions. This is going to work. It will have no bearing on this one. Okay. Now what is going to happen if I have these chain? The advantage is if this condition becomes true, it is going to execute this code and ignore everything else. I'm done. Okay. Now if I don't have these chained together, if I have these independent ones, what is going to happen? It is going to do this, and then it's also going to do this. Redundant, but that's if you have two separate, that is what is going to happen. Okay. Now there are cases you will have two more like independent conditions, but in this scenario it doesn't make sense. But we can have multiple if conditions. But they remember they're going to be separate and independent. Okay. The spacing or anything doesn't matter. Okay. Even in this one, you see I don't have any space or new link. It doesn't matter. Right? These two are still independent. So JavaScript is looking for this else over here. So this condition ends over here. If you do this, then they are linked. Doesn't matter if you have an extra space or a new line. These are still linked together. JavaScript is smart enough to take out these lines and everything.
So how does that code execute?
Right now,
You have two
if
false
you,
states,
this never gets executed. Why? Because if you say true, this is going to get executed. If there's a false, it comes over here. There's no other condition. So this one never gets executed. Yes.
So it's a Boolean variable, is it a pointless tabulated
If it is a what? Boolean?
Boolean variable, is it like pointless tabulated else if? Is that like everything that we do else if they're telling true or false?
There. Oh, okay.
Well, there's no.
Right. So that's a good question. So there would be some. Right now we only have one thing over here. That's why it's only one. But the case would be if I press, let's say you. Let's say if I change this to a prompt, okay, and then say enter your favorite Avenger. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and change this variable name and change it to prompt. And change this to prompt. Let me remove these comments so you guys can see how this is going to work. Okay. Now, in this condition, I'm asking the user to enter something, right? They're going to answer with a prompt. So this means it's a free text field. And this time I'm going to say if they entered Captain America, okay, then I'm going to say this thing. Okay. Now I'm comparing the answer and trying to see if they answered this thing. Okay. Else if, let's suppose they answered Iron Man. You like, okay. So what is happening? In this case, I'm saying enter your favorite Avenger. They answer something. If they say exactly like this, it has to be why? Because this is a string. Remember, string. If you put anything in double quote, it has to exactly match it. The casing, uppercase, lowercase, everything matters. Okay. If you answer like this, it is going to prompt this. If you answer this, it's going to prompt this. If you answer anything other than these two, this is what is going to show up. So you're going to say. That's where the else if comes in. Okay, in case of confirm, we only have two options, but in case of prompt, we have a lot more options. Basically, these conditions are evaluating, comparing. The answer to these condition is always going to be either true or false. Yes, sir.
If you were gonna set one, so like if you answered no, would you put the no like close?
No, null would be just no. So they do have a keyword. Let's say else if prompt is equal to no. Then do something. Okay, good question. So remember, We talked about the word null. Null is a keyword. You don't need double quotes. JavaScript recognizes null as null. Okay, null basically means there is no value inside it. No space, nothing space. It means there is some value. Null means it's empty. Remember when you press cancel. Yes.
Can we cover the not statements
Yeah, yeah, we'll cover that. Okay. Any other questions? Yes,
So
CJ.
the else is really good for if you have
Yes, it is if you want to take a decision in your code. Okay, so this is good for right now since we have studied prompt, confirm, and alert. That's why we are using these. But eventually, yes, it is good if you want to execute some code on some condition only. Okay, if you want to execute this code on a certain condition, that's when you use if else. Okay, we'll look at some more activities and you will see where it is. Right now, since we have covered prompt based on that, you're making a decision based on this if condition. Anytime in your code, when you want to take a decision, you use conditional statement, if else. Yes.
So, is that also mean, like when you answer the question,
Yes.
you have to type back in the exactly like
Exactly. Yes. Why? Because this is in double quotes. It is going to exactly look for it. If you have lowercase, it's not going to work. Yes.
prompt evaluate for?
Hold on. Yes, CJ.
Would you be able to like put space and use the lowercase capital now?
No. No.
So what if they don't type it?
Then it is what is going to happen if they don't type it as this one. This condition is going to evaluate to what? True or false? False. So it's going to go over here. Okay. Is this going to match? No. So it's going to go to the last one, and then it's going to show you this one.
Could you put another else?
Yes, you can put as many else as you want.
And
Yes.
do like,
Yes.
catalog?
Yes. You can put as many else as you want. Yes, Joe. Do you have a question?
What is prompt evaluating for again?
Prompt is giving you a string.
So it's evaluating the string.
It is no prompt is giving you back a string. Evaluation is done over here. This is called evaluation.
It's returning a string?
It is returning a string. Yes. So prompt, anything that you enter. Remember, prompt is a box. If I run this, I type something in. Prompt is going to give you that answer. Evaluation means you are comparing two things. Okay. Yes, Scott.
I think you just so if you wanted for them to even be able to do it with lowercase letters, not just do the proper capitalization, you have to do another else if and write out the prompt for your vendor and then put it lowercase instead. You have to pretty much have to.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Now there are better ways to do it, but yes, with the knowledge that we have, that's the way you would have to do it. Yes. And the reason is this is in double quotes. It is going to exactly match what is in double quotes. Okay. Because when you use double quotes, this is considered a data type of a string, and then JavaScript has given all control to you. It is going to exactly match what you are going to type in. It has to be exactly like this. Okay, lowercase, uppercase, space, no space, everything counts. All right, good questions. Any other questions? Okay, so let's try activity number 9. So activity number 9 kind of follows the same example. Let me open that up. So this time looks like you have to write the whole code yourself. So you're going to create a HTML file, create a JavaScript file separately. Okay. And then you are going to ask these questions. So alert the following to the. Now you will see that it says create a website from scratch that asks the user if they eat steak. Okay. Now the instructions are becoming a little bit. It's not vague. They are giving you what you need to do. Okay. So based on your knowledge, you're going to find out: are you going to use a prompt? Are you going to use an alert? or are you going to use a confirm for the first one? Okay, so you're going to ask a question. If they answer with yes, you're going to do this thing. So remember the conditional statements. So create a HTML, create a JavaScript file, link them, and then write your code in your JavaScript. State activity, and we create a HTML file, and then a JavaScript file, stick.js, and I'm going to create a skeleton, stick activity, and then go ahead and link these two using the script tag. Source is going to be stake.js. Okay, and then the rest of the code will go in your JavaScript file. As the users, if they're each state, they're looking for true and false, so confirm would be good for this one. So var confirm, I'm going to call it confirm, let's say state response is equal to, you need to use a confirm box, so confirm double quotes, and the question you're asking is if they eat steak. You can say, do you eat steak? Okay, so now you have the response, yes, true and false, depending on what they answer. The next step is to write that if condition. If they respond with yes, which means true, you are going to show an alert saying here's a steak sandwich. So a condition, if confirm steak response is equal to true, then you are going to show an alert saying, oops, here's a steak sandwich.
difficulty type.
Yeah, because you're just basically creating a new file. So,
So rather than school or page
The second is if they respond no, which means false, then you're going to say here's a tofu stir fry. So you're going to say else
so this
alert,
is just
here's a tofu stir fry. So some of you might come up with this one, or some of you might have else if. Both are, I mean, this is shorter and correct, but you can write it in this fashion as well. You can say if confirm is equal to false. This is a little bit redundant, so that's why you can just use else, because the only two responses would be true or false, and in this case you can skip this one. Usually, if you have a statement like this one, you would put a semicolon. If else, within the end of this, you don't have to put it.
discretionary at that point.
Well, again, it's more like a habit, but you can even skip the semicolon. Again, JavaScript doesn't care about the semicolon, but it's just good practice. So you can put a semicolon here. This will work as well. But usually, what I do is I put it at the end of a statement. So this is one line, I'm done with it, semicolon. This is still going on, so I would put it over here. This means that this is one thing. So anytime you think you are done, if this is the end of it, so you now if you can have another if condition, right? And then you can put it over here. This will tell me, okay, this is one thing, this is another thing, this is one thing. So that's the good practice that usually follows. I'll try to put a semicolon.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, otherwise you won't be able to type this out. All right. So the basic activity solution is this. You would have the equal to operator. For the bonus one, I'm going to leave that out. I have written three more operators. One is called greater than equal to. This one is called less than equal to, and this one is called not equal to. Okay. The first two are used to compare numbers, basically. Okay. Make a note of it when you work on the bonus. I'm pretty sure this is what you would need. I would like you guys to a little bit do research and look into those things. And if there's confusion, we can discuss in the next class. But the more important one is these ones. Okay, unless you understand these clearly, those won't make sense, or the bonus wouldn't really make sense to you. Okay. Before we move on to one last thing, any questions on this activity? Any questions on? Yes, story. What is it? Uh huh. Yes, yes. So those are the operators. Give it a try, and otherwise in the next class I can go over it. But I want you guys to little bit try the bonus part, and if it doesn't make sense, we can look into it. But you probably need one of those operators: greater than equal to, less than equal to, or not equal to. These are used to compare numbers. That's where these come into play. Yes.
I got the bonus part. I'm just confused. But didn't you say when they ask for a prompt, it returns the answer as a string?
Yes.
So how does it know that it's a number to compare less than?
So the question is, the prompt is going to return a string to you. Okay, but you need to convert it into a number. Okay, so again, I'm going to give you a hint and look into this. There is called parse int. Going to the W3 schools and look into parse int. Parse int, you can give a string and it is going to convert it into a number. Okay, make a note of it. Again, do a little bit of research and see how you can use that. This will give you a number back. So basically, you can pass in a string 21 and it is going to give you a number 21. Okay, look into that. Again, we can cover this in the next class or in the office hours. Just make sure to slag it out and say, hey, I didn't get the bonus part at all. I tried it, and I can cover that in office hours. Okay, but do give it a try. Yes.
Plus minus.
NT, INT. Sorry, I. Yeah. Let me type it out on the screen over here. It is so that it's in the video as well. Parse INT. Okay, and in this case, you can give a string or a string variable. This is going to give you a number. You can store this and say var num. So num is going to have a number representation of 21. Okay, think about it, look into it. But again, these are more important than this one. Bonus comes after you are clear on this one. Okay. All right. So one last data type for today. Remember, we covered string, we covered number, we covered boolean. The next one is array. It's called ARRAY. Okay. Now remember what is variable used for? It is used to store just like one kind of data, right? You can either store a string or a number or a boolean, but it has to be just one. Okay. Arrays is where you can store multiple values inside a data type, in this data type, in a variable. Okay. Now, how does array work? Let me go back to my demo. So it is also a variable, but the data type would be arrays, which means you can store more than one values inside it. So for example, let me go ahead and comment this out. Remember, we had a variable on the top, name. Let's do the same one. I'm going to var name is equal to, let's say, Captain America. Okay, you can only store one data type. This is a string, so you can only store one value inside this one. Okay, arrays you can store multiple. So the syntax for arrays is, I'm going to say var, and I'm going to call it Avengers is equal to 2 square brackets. Anytime you see 2 square bracket, this means this variable over here is an array. This is an array. Okay, now what can you store in an array? You can store multiple values. For example, I want to store Captain America, comma, and then I can store another value, comma, another value, so on. Okay, so what is an array? Array is a collection. Okay, start with square brackets. Okay, and then each value is separated by a comma. So one value, comma, second value, comma, third value, comma, and you can keep going on. Okay, now variable string can only store one, arrays can store multiples. Okay, now what does this array contain? What kind of string? Why string? Because of the double quotes. Okay, you can have an array that can contain numbers. For example, var Avengers ages. Okay, you can have okay, so this is an array that contains numbers. You can also have an array that contains booleans: true, true, false, false, true, false. We'll come to that. Short answer, yes. That's so weird about JavaScript. Okay, so an array is a collection and it can store more than one value. Okay, usually it is used for a collection, and you will see I have an s at the end. Usually, I mean, again, this is a convention. Since it's plural, it has more than one. I usually like to put an s at the end, whatever the plural form of that word is. Not required, just a naming convention. Okay, JavaScript really doesn't care if you name it like this or not. Okay, but this is the fourth one, which is called an array. Array is a collection. Again, the syntax is square brackets. Okay, now how do I access these values? Okay, these values have a number assigned to it, and we call that number index. Every single value for this one has a number assigned to it, and the number is called index. Okay, now the number that is assigned to this, or the index, starts from 0. It does not start from 1. So the index for Captain America, this string, is 0. The index for this one is 1, and this one is 2. 0, 1, 2. Always remember, in an array, the position or the index starts from 0. Okay, if I want to access something that is at index number 0, how do I access it? Let's go ahead and do a console log. So I will say console log so that I can see. Okay, variable name, which is Avengers, so I'm going to say Avengers, square bracket, and then the index number. For example, if I put 0, what is it going to do? It is going to go to this array Avengers and look up what is at index number 0. It is Captain America, so it is going to print Captain America on the console. Okay, so let's verify this. Everything is. Let's comment this out so that this is not confusing. That's it. Okay, so I'm going to run this again. Let's go to our console. Let's refresh. So you see Captain America. All right. Now, if I put it index number 1, what should get printed? Black Widow 0, 1. Okay, so if you go back over here, it is going to say Black Widow. If you put in index number 2, it is going to print Iron Man. Why? Because this is 0, 1, and 2. Okay. What if you put in index 3? There's nothing at index 3. Okay. You are going to get it's not an error, but it will say undefined. This means the value at that index does not exist. Okay. If you put an index number that is not over here, that has no value assigned to it, you're going to get undefined. Okay. Again, now if you want to output, let's suppose the ages, so you will say console log and type in the ages array. Okay. Same format, index number 1 is going to give you 35. Let's take this. Okay. So these are called arrays. Again, the index number, remember, starts with 0, 1, and 2. This is the position. Index tells you the position. Okay. Now, if you want to find out how many elements, these are called elements. So anything that your array contains, they are technically called elements. If you want to find out how many elements does my array has, it has 3 elements, right? If you count these out, there are 1, 2, and 3. Index number 0, 1, 2, but the total number of elements inside this array is 3. It contains 3 elements, right? Now, how do I find how many elements are? It's called console. Let's go ahead and console log this, and you can do this with, let's say, Avengers dot length. If you type in Avengers dot length or the name of the array dot length, it is going to give you the number of elements that are inside this array. So right now, if you go back to your console, it should say 3. Okay. If you add one more over here, this becomes 4. Oops. Alright, why? Because now I have 4 elements. Oops. Oh, that's why. Thank you. Okay. So the length gives you the number of elements, but remember there are 4 elements. The index number, the position is still 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Length gives you the number of elements. Index gives you the position of that element inside this array. Okay. The question was, can I have mixed array? Basically, what the question was, can I have, this is an array of strings. Can I have a number? Yes, you can. JavaScript is the only language that allows you to mix and match stuff. Weird, totally, I don't like it, but you can have it. You can put in different kind of elements inside it, and JavaScript will never complain. Try not to do it. This would be it. Okay. Now, suggestion, please go back. There are a few more activities. Activity number 10 that I've left out, I want you guys to look into that. Once you get the array activity, please try 13. 13 is a challenge activity. If you know this concept well, you should be able to give it a try to 13. Okay? Please make sure, go back and redo this activity. Thursday, we are going to cover a little bit more different concepts. I will be here until 10. Let me know if you have any questions on the activities. We can talk about that. All right? See you guys Thursday.
Any quick question?
Are you able to make a sticky footer?